Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we're looking at RCAT. It is time for another update, and today we'll be discussing the relevant area of support that can still allow us to extend higher here into this continuation to the upside in the fifth wave in yellow, as well as the interpretation that could actually send us more directly to the downside in this wave B in white into the area of support between the $4.2 all the way down to the $1 level. But before we get there, I would like to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we are basically tracking a larger leading diagonal forming to the upside, where we have a wave 1 up complete, a wave 2 complete, and now we are looking for the third wave to the upside. Now, since it is a leading diagonal forming, we have a couple of interpretations that we could track. And here we have, in the white scenario, a larger ABC that we overall expect to unfold if this really is to be a third wave to the upside, yeah? And we can consider that we have already topped and we would be heading then into this area of support. But within the yellow interpretation, we actually have a couple of options, yeah? We only have two counts here on the chart that we are tracking, but the yellow scenario actually contains a couple of options, because with this extension in a fifth wave to the upside, we could easily consider that this would be still the wave A, because the wave A could be a 3-wave structure, but it could also be a 5-wave move to the upside as well. And in that case, we would still be looking afterwards for a correction in a wave B and then a wave C to the upside to complete the larger wave 3. But within the yellow interpretation, we do also need to account for the possibility of a larger ABC structure forming, in which case, after completing this fifth wave to the upside, there is a good chance that this structure would be complete and that we may be looking at an extension to new lows. Other interpretations are possible, but they would fit quite very well within the interpretation that this would be a larger wave A that has formed, so we won't discuss them. Yeah, it is very similar. But there is the threat that this larger ABC structure could be a corrective move to the upside that is complete, and we could be heading to new lows. Yeah, there is a significant risk if we form here this additional high that this overall structure may be complete and we wouldn't need any more highs for a specific interpretation. Now, with that said, I would still expect continuation higher even if we are to follow such a pattern. Yeah, I would expect to complete this fifth wave, where so far I can only really assume that we have an A wave complete. And it isn't just any wave A, because within this structure we do have a pretty clearly defined 5-wave move to the upside. Now, it is within the interpretation of a leading diagonal, which isn't necessarily the best scenario. Yeah, it would be ideal to form impulses. They would be easier to track. They would be easier to determine failure for. But we are dealing with this structure for now, and within it, we have this area of support between the $10.2 level all the way down to the $6 level. I have provided you this area of support ever since we have formed here the top of the wave A, and we were looking for a retracement into this area. Now, so far we have managed to push into the last level of support, and we have even gotten a wick below it, which is perfectly fine. So now we are still looking with high probabilities for a reversal to the upside in a wave C to new all-time highs. But if we are to break here below the 78.6% retracement, that would be quite a significant warning sign, because the probabilities, or the high probabilities that we are tracking right now for this area of support, would be discarded pretty much, and we would basically still have a valid interpretation of an ABC structure to form in this area, as long as we hold here the previous low, the wave A bottom, or the beginning of the wave A. But yeah, if we are to break even below those levels, well, I would have to pretty much discard this scenario fully. Now, with that said, so far we haven't invalidated even the area of support. In fact, we have created probably the nicest movement to the upside ever since this downtrend has started, and we will discuss it in a moment, but I want to go quickly through the interpretations we were tracking previously to clarify what has been going on since the previous video. And here we are looking, or we were looking for a possible 5-wave move unfolding to the downside. Yeah, we were looking at this as a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and the 5th in the orange scenario. We were looking for a retracement here into the wave B, which fortunately hasn't happened, but yeah, honestly, it might have been easier based on the structure that has now formed in this scenario. But yeah, we haven't pushed into this area of resistance, and we don't really need the orange interpretation anymore, because we haven't managed to break here the resistance that we had in the green scenario, in which we were looking for much more direct downside. Now, seemingly easily, quite perfectly, we have followed through in this interpretation in green, where we are tracking a more direct ABC structure to the downside, where in the wave C, we were looking here at the wave 1 complete, wave 2 complete, third wave complete. We were looking here for the wave 4 correction, and yeah, we have pushed into the resistance levels, into the 50% retracement, and got rejected, and we could easily consider now that we have built here the fifth wave to the downside. Now, there is a slight problem with this. We have extended here within this wave 5 much more than ideal, and in fact it is also quite easy for me to consider this a 5-wave move down, so I do need to be prepared for further extensions lower. Yeah, in this interpretation that we are tracking here in green, if we are really looking at a wave C to the downside, well, I would expect a 5-wave structure. Right now, I'm not so convinced this is the case. I could consider this an initial 1, 2, yeah, a wave 1 down, a wave 2 up here, then a third wave down, fourth wave up, and then a fifth wave down. No problem, it is on the small time frame, it might be slightly distorted, and then we might have a bottom within the overall pattern, within the overall correction, but I do have to account for a possible extension of this overall structure. And even if, by the way, even if I were to consider a different correction going on in this overall wave B in yellow, this could easily work out as a WXY pattern, in which case here, if I consider an ABC internally, I could probably even check the extensions, because seemingly they do look like they reach the ideal target at the 100% extension perfectly, in which case I wouldn't need any additional lows. So honestly, this is probably my preferred interpretation, also based on the size of this current wave 4. Now, if we are to fall directly lower, we are most likely going to invalidate the area of support that we are tracking in the yellow interpretation, and we may be heading with higher probabilities for the white scenario overall, but right now, I am looking with quite good chances for a bottom to have formed within this overall wave B in yellow. Now, with that said, we can track, however, an internal area of resistance for the current green interpretation, in which case I would be looking at the levels between the $6.8 all the way up to the $8.8 level at the 61.8% retracement to still be wary of a possible extension here in a fifth wave to the downside. Yeah, even if in this wave 4 we have extended more than I would normally expect compared to this wave 2, I would still be very much aware of possible extensions lower, especially considering that within this movement to the upside from the current bottom, we have pushed perfectly into the 38.2% retracement before getting this more significant rejection. However, again, we have a nice structure that has formed to the upside. I may actually even be able to consider this our initial 5-wave move to the upside, in which case I could even label this as a 1-2 setup for the overall yellow interpretation. Now be wary, this could also be part of an extension of the wave green, or of the wave 4 in green, where this could be an ABC structure, but I would be looking here for a very similar area of support, which would be also very much at the bottom of the larger area of support for the larger time frame. Yeah, it is very much headed towards the last level of support here on the larger time frame, and this is a secondary 1-2 setup that we are tracking, which, even though it is on a small time frame, it makes it an interesting trade setup, because yeah, we have basically a double 1-2 setup. It is a wave A on the large time frame, but it is equally fine in this case. And we are looking with high probabilities for continuation here in an additional 5-wave move to the upside after this 3-wave correction. Yeah, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to follow after this ABC. And we are looking for support at the levels between the $6.8 all the way down to the $6.1 level at the 78.6% retracement, where as long as we hold here the 78.6% retracement, we are looking with high probabilities to continue in another wave to the upside. Now, with that said, we might have already formed the initial wave A down and the wave B up, and if I were to be looking for an ideal target for the wave C to the downside, now again, this is assuming that we have formed the wave B top, I would be looking at the 100% extension of the wave A, which is right around the $6.6 level. Yeah, very much in line with the 50% retracement, but again, as I always say, we don't need to get there and we don't need to stop there. This is just an ideal target to look for a possible trade setup a possible bottom here in an internal wave C, and a start to the upside in a larger wave 3 in yellow, or a larger wave C in the wave 4 in the green interpretation. Now, I'm not saying this is impossible to fail, that this structure cannot fail directly and push through the areas of support, but the probabilities suggest that we should see another high within this area. And for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.